Hey guys, this is UC from iTradePrice. Welcome to the weekly episode of all the charts that we follow and trade. So let's start with Amazon right now. Weekly chart, really nice above all this. Let me adjust the moving averages to a little bit standard. So here's our 20 and 50. So we are comfortably above the 20 SMA in the weekly time period. Nice bullish trend bar in the weekly time frame, so everything is good there. And the green line, this is a daily chart, and you can see we had a nice bump up from the 50-day moving average in the daily time frame, so that is always a good sign. A little uptick in volume here as well on Friday, which is always nice. So we are essentially, looks like sort of in this up channel right now since the middle of September. So now if I make these duplicate lines like this, so we can kind of keep going up. I mean, from the channel perspective, get some follow through. There's some resistance in the 3350s right here. Remember, we failed from that level 2 times, so it would be interesting to see how we behave this time when Amazon gets to that price level. If we get a follow through, but there's some selling pressure right here between 3308 and 3350, right? You can kind of see it. It's kind of obvious from these top wicks here in the daily time frame, but it looks very constructive. We were not getting any bearish follow through to any down days. Like, for example, this was a down day, this was a down day. Every time we get a down day, we would see a nice bounce back up. Buyers would step in and give us a bullish close. And late last week, we did manage to get back above the 50 SMA. We were kind of having a little bit of fight here between bears and bulls, but eventually we made it back up above the 50 SMA in the daily time frame. Nice bullish sign. So we will see how it goes, but again, these are the levels that I'll be watching in the lower time frame to time my entry. So just make use of that right now. Again, even if we come down a little bit, it is still okay because the channel is up, so any retracement back towards can be seen as a buying opportunity if we kind of go sideways, and then once these moving averages in the lower time frame and this channel catch up, and then we kind of get another move back up. So look for that only if we start moving back below 3200, 3175, which are some of these swing lows in the lower time frame. That can kind of get concerning that, okay, the bulls are losing some steam, but not really bearish. You really want to get bearish once you kind of get below this congestion zone right here. So below 3132 or eventually 3090, which is the weekly support. Even if we kind of see a move below that, only then you can be aggressively bearish. But for right now, dips are seen as an opportunity to get back into the stock. Here's the Apple weekly chart. Again, nothing wrong. We had this controlled move down since the past few weeks, and then we saw a nice bullish piercing pattern here in the weekly time frame. This bar gave us a really nice bullish piercing pattern, and since then we have managed to stay and close above 112.2, which has been a nice support in the weekly time frame. So let's dig into the daily here and kind of break it down a little bit, and you can see it's been forming a nice a head and shoulder pattern where this is the left shoulder, this is the head, and this is the right shoulder. So that means the neckline sort of becomes around 119 area right here, or if you want to just kind of give it a little bit of range, it can be between 120 and 119 as the neckline, right? So anything over and above that with some conviction, with some volume coming in, would be a nice breakout to the upside. Okay, and you can see these recent bars, again, no bearish follow through to any down days, which is always a good sign for bulls that the dips were bought. We are comfortably above the 20 SMA here, which is the yellow line, and now the stock has also managed to close back above its 50 SMA, which is the green line right here. So that's a good sign. And if I go into, let's say, a 2-hourly time frame, here was the channel that it was kind of trading in, and then on Friday we did manage to kind of close above the channel. And even if I look in the 4-hourly time frame, you can see there are again more bullish trend bars, right? Only a couple of bearish trend bars, and then again it's making these nice patterns, like for example this one right here, 4-hourly pattern, right? It's a bullish pattern where you have the move down, but again it's called trend bar failure, where you don't get any follow through to the downside. In fact, you get a little bit of pause, and then you get the bullish bar right here, and then this becomes sort of the buy area that you are going to play the breakout, which it kind of did late last week on Friday. So let's see if we kind of build onto it a little bit further for a little bit of follow through. Here is BYND, mates. This is a weekly chart. It has been on a nice bull run since the past 4 to 5 weeks now. You can see very nicely holding the trend, and last week I know we personally traded it a lot on the upside. Did try to short it on Friday and just could get a little bit of juice out of it, not a whole lot, but it still remains in the bullish trend. But if in the daily time frame, you can see this was sort of the doji bar, right, which means it's an indecision. Buyers wanted to take it back up, sellers stepped in, but they couldn't keep the price down, so it kind of managed to close where pretty much close to where it opened. Sorry, this was Thursday, and on Friday it kind of did the same thing, did not get any upside follow through. In fact, we did see some sellers, but then even they couldn't keep the price down because of the general market was strong and just kind of beyond move in its own way sometimes. But this does mean that it is kind of getting exhausted, but it could be soon to start shorting it right here. So let's dig into a lower time frame and see what we can find out. So let's go into our hourly time frame. Okay, so what's something that pops out quickly is this sort of the trend or a kind of flaggish kind of a pattern here. So if we move back up above this 197.5, 196, there could be a lot of stop losses for the people who are short this stock against the high. Could buy back and fuel this rally a little bit more and take it all the way above 200 to 201.9, which is its next weekly resistance, right? But if that move fails and we suddenly see a move back down and the breakdown from 190, and you can see it held 190 level all throughout Thursday and Friday, right? So that becomes sort of a nice intraday level to watch if you're playing the upside, and see if it holds that level. But if it does not, hey, this can definitely quickly go down towards 186 or even lower to 184, because the next heavy support is not until 184, 180 level in the intraday time frame. If I zoom it out a little bit, let's do 4-hourly. So yeah, you can see multiple 4-hourly bars have this 190 as its support. Anything below that, 184 comes next as a big time support. If you even go below that, then 175 is a nice round number to look for, and at that time these short-term moving averages will also kind of catch up to that to provide some support, looks like. Okay, so here is a NFLX chart weekly, and like I have been kind of saying in my weekly videos that I am less bearish on this name, and that did kind of play out nicely because there was just no bearish trend bars, first of all, in the weekly time frame. No closures below the 20 SMA in the weekly time frame, right? And there was just no bearish price action overall in NFLX. It was holding this 500 or 460 level kind of nicely, and then late last week it did manage to hold and break out towards the top side. But this trend line in the weekly time frame did end up becoming a little bit of resistance zone, right? And in the daily time frame, it was flaggish. I think that's what we kind of discussed as well, right? Something like that. It did break out here in the daily time frame, gave us a nice volume bullish trend bar. Thursday was a little bit of pause, sideways inside move, and then we got some upside move, but it was contained. It did not really kind of break out like this from this trend line. So that means that trend line is of some importance and is giving it some resistance. So the next top side that it wants to break would be again 541, 544 area. So if we break out of this, the next real resistance does not come until like 557. So 556 can be a good area to watch if we kind of move towards the top side here. But since it was a Friday, not so bullish trend bar, but did manage to remain above 535 support, which is good for bulls. So as long as we keep closing above that, or even above 530, right, it can kind of go sideways, bump against this trend line, sort of make a little pressure cooker top, and then boom, it just kind of goes up, because again, a higher time frame is bullish. So we would like to kind of remain in the side of the larger trend here. Okay, now this is NVDA. It has been also on a nice bullish run, good breakout from this range that it had kind of established in all this previous weeks, with a top around 530 here and the low around 480, and eventually we saw this week's close above that weekly range right here. So that is good, a bullish sign. But now if we go into the daily time frame and kind of break it down a little bit more, you can see we did it did manage to kind of break out of this zone right here, and now it's making and trying to find some price acceptance here in its next zone of 546, 545, and 565. So here's a $20 range that it traded mostly in the past week. It did not break down, it did not break out above that. So that is a good sign. But in the daily time frame, now after this bearish rejection from 565, right, we did not get any downside follow through. Now it could be because the majority of the market was bullish on Friday, and that's why we got this pause. So now let's see if we try to move back above towards this 560 level, 5 level, and then eventually break out towards the all-time highs here, or if we break down and give up this 545, 546 level to test the next support levels around 529 and 522. At that time, you are going to see this 20 SMA kind of catch up as well. So that can be a nice bounce support trade here as well to look for. If you are accumulating these stocks, this is again a good point, good dip buy, because you have these multiple bullish trend bars here, which means that the buyers stepped in this area to buy the stock. So they could be waiting with their buy orders again in case it comes down here and then we see another bounce back up. But again, we have to be open for both the scenarios. This is for the downside, and again, if we get a pause here, because this was an indecision bar, did not see any downside follow through to this bar, so that means buyers are seeing, and they got some price acceptance here, which was sort of the resistance on the way up, and now it's going to act as support. So that means we are going to go back up towards 565, which has been its weekly resistance. Okay, so you can kind of consider that price action when you're trading. Here is a chart of Boeing in the weekly time frame. again, very well contained sideways overall weekly price action. It does not break down every time it tries to do that. Like, oops, like it tried to break down. God, give me that tool. So it tried to break down here back in the August or July time frame. It did not, right? It tried to break down here, got bought. So last week, it was kind of very news driven, but 159 ended up becoming a super support here, and 173 area was sort of the resistance that we saw that it couldn't really break out from, because it has this trend line and some price horizontal price resistance as well. So that is something to consider. Let's go into the daily time frame. Sorry about these lot of lines here. Let me get rid of them for you. Okay, there you go. Just makes it a little clear. We did break down on this news earlier last week, but we managed to hold the 159 area, and immediately we saw the move back up slowly and gradually, but again, we did close right at the 50 SMA. So the problem is, every time it tries to make the move above 50 SMA, which is this green line, we see a rejection right here. Right here is also rejection, right? This is a rejection. This is a rejection. This is a rejection. So that means sellers show up, so you cannot be aggressively long. But that does also mean that if we start seeing some move back above 170, 172 area, there could be a lot of people who are short with their stop orders sitting right here. So if we see a move towards 172, 172.8, a lot of those short orders would like to kind of buy back and close their short positions. That can add further to the upside move and take it all the way up. So short covering basically. We'll see what happens. My only concern for playing this name to the downside is that we just don't get any big follow through to the downside. In fact, we just kind of start moving downwards, and plus it's kind of news driven. So I mean, if you like to play it, hey, that's fine, but there are other better charts to trade as well. But yeah, okay. This is a ROKU weekly chart. Massive, nice bull run since the past 3 weeks now. One trend bar after the other. So looks very nice. You know, all holding the uptrend line. There's nothing wrong with this one. So, I mean, is it getting toppy? We'll find out once we get into the daily time frame here. Let's open that. Oops, that's a monthly. Sorry. So we did gap up on Thursday, and since then we have held that gap off with the low of 2019 as support. It's getting, I won't say it's getting heavy here, but it does kind of look like it has gone a little exponential here, and it is really kind of far away from its moving averages. So don't really, the risk and reward is not there. Simple as that. So I mean, yes, you can buy it, it can go up, but from the risk and reward perspective, it's not there. And I would rather have you play the pullback once it fills the gap down here, or find some support here around 202, 207 area, and let these moving averages catch up so we can start planning towards the next leg up. But right now, I just think there are other better charts to trade than ROKU. But if you see a move down below the 2014 here in the daily time frame, that can mean that there has been some sort of a short-term top here in place, right? Because right now, what this looks like is sort of an island, right? And it's been trading sideways with 228 and 2019 as the range, so $8 range, right? So if it breaks down from this 2019, look for that gap fill. But if it does try to go back up above 228, that can be another breakout trade. But from my perspective, the risk and reward is not there. There's a lack of price reference in terms of, since the price is just setting at sort of an all-time high here, you just don't have any reference points to kind of read the chart with some more confidence. So that's the only reason I would like to avoid it. But other than that, yeah, it's been a nice bull run. You don't see any bearish follow through, making nice lower highs, higher highs. So all good there from that perspective. Okay, this is a Tesla weekly time frame. Again, you can see we are holding this 406 level on a closing basis very nicely. We did close a couple of weeks ago right there around 406, but since then we have not had a close or even a move below that. So that means it is a good support level. And last week was a little sort of a hammer bar, but with a lower high, right? So let's go into daily, and it looks like it is kind of getting tight here. Something you can look for is this kind of a move here, where this is kind of getting tight here. It's sort of making a triangle, but with a lack of overall bearish price structure, right? So that is something, just something to observe here. We are seeing more closures here above the 20 SMA in the daily time frame with a lack of bearish follow through. So that is nice. And if I zoom in a little bit more, the daily time frame, you can see, gave us what a lot of people like to call these bullish harami pattern here, which is, this is the bearish trend bar, right at the trend line, rejected, but then immediately following that day we have an inside day with the bullish looking bar, which means that the sellers couldn't get any downside follow through. In fact, we have the buyers stepping in and holding this this support level of 425 in the daily time frame, right? So that means if we see a move back up above this 439 level right here, which is the resistance right here, multiple touch points, if we start moving back above 440 level, right, 440, that can be a good sign for bulls that we are going to start seeing some prices, aggressive buyers stepping in to take the prices back up. But sometimes what happens is that when everybody is looking for a move like that, what happens is you'll see a breakout, and then immediately it will fail and get back below this trend line, and we can start moving a little bit down from there until we get to this downtrend line, and then we'll see if that one holds or not. If it does hold, that means we are seeing some support, because this is also a 50 SMA support, which can really nicely coincide with this trend line as well. So the 50 SMA, that would be a nice super buy if we kind of get there, that is. Or if we see a move down and then back up, that means buyers held this level nicely, defended this level, and now the price just wants to go up, right? So kind of keep that in mind. But if we fail from this 390 level, which is a nice support, that means we are giving up this 50 SMA and this trend line, this trend line support as well, and the next move down can take it to 360, where we have the multiple touch points in terms of horizontal price support as well. Okay, just going to go quickly over some of the swing trades that I'm also looking to consider, apart from which ones are already open. So Disney, here's the weekly chart. You can see that it has held this weekly support of 120 for the past few weeks now nicely, and closed above the yellow 20 SMA in the weekly time frame. Now it's kind of banging its way up against the 50 SMA in the weekly time frame, which is this green line. So something to consider. But from price action perspective, it's a nice hammer bar with a bullish harami pattern in the weekly time frame, where you have this weekly trend bar down with no follow through to the downside. In fact, you have a bullish bar, so that is something nice. Now if we go into the daily time frame, similar looking price action where you don't see much downside follow through to any bearish trend bar, right? No follow through here. In fact, we got the bullish bar and then some follow through to the upside, right? So yeah, I mean, this was the congestion zone. We did manage to close above that. Now we have these multiple touch points here, 2 right here and 1 right here, and this is also a 20 SMA resistance as well. So we need to start kind of getting above this to start making our way towards 127 and eventually this 50 SMA or this 127 as the first resistance or the first target on the upside. Okay, here is a race. Again, similar looking pattern here in the weekly time frame as well, managing to close above its weekly 20 SMA line with a nice hammer bar. 2 weeks it tried to break down, couldn't do it, and third week it did, but then again buyers saw that as an opportunity and bid the price back up. In the daily, yes, you can see we have this little overshoot outside of its recent range, right? This was the recent range it was making. It did see a little bit of overshoot of the price below that, but the next day buyers stepped in and gapped it. I mean, not gapped it above, but then just kind of took it all the way up towards the upper end of its recent congestion zone range of 184, 185 time frame price range. So let's see if we start getting a move above 186. That can be a nice swing trade with 178 or 179 area as the stop loss, and once we start moving back up, you kind of slowly raise your stop loss, right? I mean, it is a little wacky looking chart with not so smooth price action because it's kind of like a little everywhere broken, but overall the picture looks nice, so that's why I like it. Okay, all right, we'll keep posting more charts and more ideas, but this is something you guys can consider for this week. Any questions, comments, please leave us a message and we'll be happy to talk. Thank you.